If you have any toes dipped into the camera world of YouTube or any YouTube vloggers, probably might have seen the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. This camera has made waves in the content creation and vlogging side of YouTube, as well as the camera world, obviously. You can shoot in 10-bit log. In other words, if you don't know any of that means, you can shoot really cool, stabilized footage. It looks like it came out on a way more expensive camera that can shoot almost as good quality as a DSLR. However, it fits in your pocket, unlike any DSLR. However, the original Osmo Pocket 1, which we have right here, this Osmo Pocket 1 came out 7 years ago. It's actually kind of crazy how old this is. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of forgot I had it for a bit because my dad's friend gave it to him and then he gave it to me because my dad doesn't use cameras. But I didn't really use it that much when I was a kid because at the time I was a film student and I just carried my Canon 80D every day to class in order to do film. And I thought that this camera just couldn't cut it for film. And there were some other reasons that I didn't like using it, and I'll go over them soon. But because of how popular the Pocket 3 was, before I bought the Pocket 3, I kind of wanted to try how the Pocket 1 stood up against the test of time. And is this still a good vlogging camera in 2025? This isn't a full review. This is more of what I liked and didn't like, and whether or not the Osmo Pocket 3 is really worth picking up over the Osmo Pocket 1. Now, let's start off with the things that I like about it. Number one, I like the size. The size of this camera. I mean, again, you have to think about the fact that it's a 1/2.3-inch sensor. It's a stabilized gimbal. Although this camera came out 7 years ago, even now, this is pretty much considered a technological marvel. Although yes, our phones technically have more computational power, the design and architecture of this camera is really insane considering how small it is. The other thing is the fact that it is pocketable in my pocket, and this is something that the Osmo Pocket 3 is a little bit harder to do. This was really, really small. It is smaller than my hand, and I can fit this in my pocket really easily. And another thing that's obviously the good about the fact that it's small is that filming in public with this is a lot easier. I feel like I'm using my phone. Actually, it's even smaller than my phone. So filming with this feels a lot more natural. No one's really asking questions. It doesn't look like a huge ass setup. I mean, this is only about 120 grams. And let's talk about the quality really quickly. I think it does shoot better than iPhone. I think I said that earlier. If you don't know, the reason I shoot on a DSLR all my videos, I just really like the separation between the foreground and the background. That's what I think professionalism looks like, in my opinion, when I think about cameras. Bokeh. I love bokeh. And this has a subtle hint of bokeh that I do like. Even though it's very subtle, I like it a lot more than shooting on the iPhone. iPhones do this artificial blurring of background, and they don't even do it during videos unless you turn on cinematic mode, but the cinematic mode is kind of iffy. It doesn't really work all the time. So this shoots a lot better bokeh. And the other thing it obviously has to shoot better at is stabilized footage. I mean, it's a 3-axis gimbal. Our iPhones do digital stabilization, not actual physical stabilization. So iPhones look pretty decent with the digital, but I mean, you can't really fake the actual physical stabilization of this camera. I mean, you can lock it, you can make it follow you. I mean, the fact that this has a stabilized gimbal kind of makes all your footage just look really, really rock solid in terms of visual clarity. It is really just awesome to have that. And the other thing I want to talk about is the design and the fact that it comes with this really cool case. Well, I mean, it doesn't come with it, but you can buy it. I'm not sure you can buy it anymore, obviously, but I mean, you could, back then it came with this case, which is the battery case, and it looked really, really cool. It gives about 1.5 times the charge of one Osmo Pocket, and you can charge the Pocket 1 using the USB-C port on the case, so you can charge both at the same time. Really, really cool. I like the design of this a lot. Now, with all that being said, I still think this is a great camera. However, there was a reason I didn't use it as my main camera for a majority of reasons, and here comes the truth reality of the Osmo Pocket 1. But the good thing is, for a lot of these things, the Osmo Pocket 3 did fix. However, this overview, again, is biased to a guy who does play with a lot of tech stuff. So for the average person who just cares about the quality of the camera and filming in general, this still does it really well. However, I'm going to go into the nitty-gritty of it, so keep that in mind, but here we go. First thing I want to talk about is the focal length. I think it's a little bit too short. As a person who stands 183 centimeters, my wingspan is pretty long. However, I felt like I always had to extend it all the way out in order to get a good shot of me and my background surrounding. I feel like this is about maybe a 24 millimeter focal length. It felt a little bit too zoomed in for my taste. For the shots that are in front of you, I think this is a fine focal length. However, for the shots where it's actually pointed at you, for a selfie mode, it was a little bit too zoomed in my opinion. Again, there are shorter people than me, and they'll probably have a hard time putting your face in there. This was fixed in the Osmo Pocket 3. The Osmo Pocket 3 has a way wider focal length, so if you think this is gonna be a problem, the Osmo Pocket 3 really kind of solves that. The next thing I want to talk about is the gimbal. This does not come with a joystick, so you had to buy this attachment to control the joystick, I believe. I don't have it. I'm pretty sure you could have bought it at the time. However, I don't have it, and it's just not, you know, you don't have it on you all the time. Especially since the battery case, there's a slot on the camera for you to slide attachments on. You just slide a USB-C attachment, and you can slide it onto this battery case to charge it. The problem is if you had the battery case and you wanted to slide to charge it, you also couldn't carry that small attachment for you to plug into your phone, which you do need to do for a variety of reasons, which I'll talk about later. But just the fact that you couldn't do those two things was annoying. I know a lot of people say they don't even use a joystick in the Pocket 3. Trust me, you would rather have the option to use it than to not use it. Sometimes the gimbal would just face left or right randomly. So the only way to properly get it to where you want it to be was to always recenter it. You couldn't really like put it off in the top left or put it on the top right unless you had that joystick attachment. So that was a little bit inconvenient. So you just have to recenter it and then kind of hope when you pointed it towards it, it was exactly where you wanted it to be. Another thing that's not great about this is the fact that there's no external audio support right off the bat. I searched up some of this. There is an external 3.5mm adapter for the USB-C to 3.5mm. It looked horrible because you would have to carry that plus plug that into like a DJI Mic Mini, for example. It doesn't look great. And not only that, it's hard to find that attachment. Maybe not just DJI sells it. I'm pretty sure some other company probably sells it as well. I'm not sure if DJI has a proprietary thing, but it looked like you needed a specific attachment for this to be a 3.5mm adapter so you can use external audio, but it's not built in straight off the bat. This is how the audio sounds like. Hey guys, so this is a test of the DJI Osmo audio. This is me just making some noises on the side, seeing if the audio sounds any good or not. I personally don't think the audio sounded that great, considering it only has one microphone. And if I were to record it the opposite way, which I will do right now, there's only one mic, so the mic instantly becomes way worse. In my opinion, it doesn't sound horrible. It just doesn't sound great either. I'd still rather have external audio. It's not one of those like, oh wow, the microphones on this are so good that I don't really mind not having external audio. There's only one microphone on this and it only captures in front of you. So most of the time, if you're talking with your friends, it's mostly just you talking and then the rest of them are like kind of a lot quieter. Everyone contributed a little bit to the pasta. Osmo Pocket 3 on the other hand has 3 microphones. That kind of solves that problem. You see where I'm getting at? There are a lot of problems with this that the Osmo Pocket 3 fixed. Here comes to the main problem in my opinion. And this is the main reason that I wanted to buy the Osmo Pocket 3. It was the 1-inch screen. And the 1-inch screen kind of set a lot of problems. Number one, navigating UI was kind of annoying because of how small the screen was. You can actually tilt the gimbal of this up and down without having to have the joystick attachment. However, you needed to touch the screen on the very side. My thumb is still a little bit bigger than 1 inch, so it accidentally swiped up and then swiped down randomly a lot. I don't know if this is an everyone or me thing, but in my experience, again, it's my personal opinion, way too small. It was way too easy to accidentally trigger other menus than if I wanted to tilt the gimbal up and down. It was very annoying. Another thing about that being a 1-inch screen, framing and focusing is a little bit harder on a 1-inch screen than you think. I mean, actually, I think most people think it's pretty hard. But it's hard to tell if something's in focus sometimes because of how small the screen is. It's hard to tell if, oh, it's out of focus or because it's so small, it looks like it's in focus. So that was another thing I had trouble with. Sometimes I had to question, was it actually in focus or not, as you can see in this clip here. And autofocus on this is pretty It like works most of the time. It was hard to do product showcasing with this. If I put it and tapped it and like hoped it would focus, that's not really a thing with the original Osmo Pocket. It's more of a thing with the Pocket 3. It doesn't really do a good job with this. It was a little bit too old. Adding on to that 1-inch screen problem, there was a phone adapter for the USB-C. That's how you updated the firmware. And then in addition, you can use a virtual joystick as well as, you know, focus, press whatever you want to see, and you can actually see really well on your phone. And you use the Osmo Pocket 1 like a full-fledged camera. And you see the problem with that is that you don't want to use a phone to use your camera. You want to be able to use your camera as a camera, not use your phone to use this camera. Because if this is plugged into your phone to get the best experience possible for your camera, then you might as well just use your phone's camera because it's a lot easier to pull out. You don't have to plug it in. I know this has a better quality, but I mean, if it's just a phone plus this, then just use your phone at that point, because then this becomes like a glorified accessory for your phone. And the last thing is that obviously it is a little bit old, so the battery life on this is not great. So I imagine if you're buying an old version of, so I can kind of imagine that if you bought this used from someone, that the battery is not going to be great unless they recently replaced it. And I guess the last thing is that some of the UI is a little bit weird. The quality control on this is like, there's normal and then it is super fine, but it's not like said. It's like you press the screen and some of the UI just changes to like star and then multiple stars, and that's just how you know it's better quality. that was baffling to me. I had no idea what that meant, but you know, it works, I guess. Okay, so overall, what do I think? Does this still live up to 2025 standards? And in my honest opinion, if you don't care about a lot of features that the Osmo Pocket 3 specifically offers, and you only care about the quality and the stabilized footage that this provides, I think this is insane. I think this is a really, really good buy for about $100 to $200. I think the benefit is that it's small and the fact that it's cheaper now. I mean, the fact that the Osmo Pocket 3 is about $880 US after tax is baffling, considering the fact that I bought mine in Singapore for about $500 US. You know, tariffs though. I think you can get very good quality. I don't think the Osmo Pocket 3 completely beats the Pocket 1 by a landslide in terms of video quality. The ease of use, the overall user experience of the Osmo Pocket 3 is a lot better than the Pocket 1, yes. Because obviously they've had 7 years to figure out how to do it. For a first gen product, it still shoots really good video in 4K 60. Stabilized footage, and you can find this for super cheap. I see no reason why you shouldn't get this. If you are looking for a cheap camera to vlog with, I think the Osmo Pocket 1 really does stand the test of time. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and like to follow for more. This is just a really quick video I wanted to make. I will be making a video on the Osmo Pocket 3 and another camera soon. Hope you guys stay tuned for those type of videos. I am moving more and more into general tech than just video game stuff. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video and like and follow for more. Peace.